So, hello and welcome. My name's Steve Nobel, and today I'm speaking with Tina Ananda on clearing family energetic dynamics. Now, Tina is a transformational therapist, a clarity coach, and creator of the Emotional Alchemy process. She leads Emotional Alchemy retreats in Bali and Costa Rica and specializes in emotions and relationships, working with empaths and highly sensitive people. She was born in Slovenia and currently is living in Costa Rica. So, hi Tina.
Hi, Steve. Nice to hear you again.
Yes, it's been a little while. So,
yes.
Can you say something about your journey into this work? How did it all start?
Well, since I was small, I was basically very much interested in the family psychodynamics. And because I also, like most of us, I grew up in a quite a neurotic family, with a father alcoholic, with a mother that was just suppressing things down, her emotions and anger. And it was really scary. So my childhood was not really fun. And so that kind of took me on a journey. I basically, first I actually finished an official education of like a financial officer, right? So I was an economist, but just that urge to know people, to know psychology and the metaphysics, and that there's more in life, not just this, right? That really took me for a ride in the past, mostly 8 years. I was traveling around the world and meeting, shamans, native healers, spiritual teachers, like all over the world, and learning from them. And basically, a whole new world just opened up to me. Because and now that I know and I have my channels open, psychic channels, I see that I had them open when I was a child. And basically because now my superpowers are that I can really, read the vibration of the person. I can read their family, energetics, dynamics, their belief systems, their emotional patterns. It's almost like I'm eavesdropping into their field, like what was going on in their childhood and what is going on now, because we are recreating, right, the emotional environment from our past. We are recreating it now because we are bringing it into the now vibration. Yeah. So I'm figuring out that I had these superpowers when I was small, like, 4 or 5, but it was so scary, to see the reality, to see what people think, what people feel, which basically, most of us empaths have this ability, and we just suppressed it because it was too painful. So I could see all of this, that my mom was suppressing, anger and resentment, but she would show me a happy face, and like, yeah, everything's okay, and it was not authentic, and it was really scary, and basically these people, when you're a small child, these people are basically dangerous for you, right? Because you see something and they're convincing you of something else, right?
Yeah.
And this is how now I also teach my clients this, that because of this, I also this is how we lose our emotional compass, right? Because parents for us are like this big thing, all-knowing God, universe, this big authority, and we believe them when they're convincing us into a different reality. So we basically drop our emotional compass and stop trusting ourselves. We stop trusting our senses, our heart, our intuition, our feelings and emotions, and we get lost, and this is how it happened to me. I got lost because I suppressed it all, and until I was like 27, I was like very logical, very rational, right? I was like, yeah, if there's no energy, right? If you can touch it, if you can see it, feel it, there's nothing there. But only like when I was 27, I had like my first awakening, I would say, which was, thank God, really nice and calm. I just went for a spiritual retreat basically, and just hold so many doors open. And this was like about 8, maybe 9 years ago now. And from then on, yeah, I went through a few dark nights of the soul, shedding, oh my God, shedding my walls, shedding my pain, shedding my identities. Who am I really? And then in this process, I also like kind of found out, because this is a process of knowing yourself, right? Know thyself. I found out I was like, do you know the human design, the profiles? So one of them is the walking mirror, a reflector. Yeah. So the reflector, it says it's like 1% of the people, but I would say more. And I'm basically a walking mirror, and like, oh my God, and it's really tough, already being an empath, so I can really relate to empaths and highly star seeds, highly sensitive people. It's so hard, that's why I also today I specialize, on setting, boundaries, on knowing yourself, on, the stopping the people pleasing, and all of that. So, it's just been an amazing path of self-discovery of myself. And this is how I can then, opening my channels as well, deepening my knowledge and my wisdom and tapping into different dimensions. And thus I now have able to help people around this, and clients come to me basically with all sorts of problems, in relationships, with their partners or kids or pets or, or family, parents, maybe with their mission, what is their mission in life, or they just seem lost or stuck. So this is what I'm passionate about.
Star seeds, light workers, or spiritual people, or people with spiritual values, being born into, so these are the sensitive types, being born into heavy family bloodlines. Exactly. What's the problem with that?
Oh my God, it's so freaking scary. It's so scary and it's dangerous. You know what's the danger that I perceived and I'm working with now, because this danger also gets reflected in the dynamics that we had with our parents, right? The shadowy suppressed stuff. We are still recreating it in ourselves, with our inner children or our parts of us or aspects of us, whatever you call them. And the danger is that imagine if you're like a 3-year-old child and you see, oh my God, I can't trust my mom, okay? Because I see how she is, but she's like straight face lying to me because she's in denial herself, right? She's asleep. So I can't trust her. But if you put yourself psychologically in a perspective of this small child, when you are 24/7, you are existentially dependent on this person that you cannot trust. And you can feel what happens to you, to your psyche. You would go mad. You would go crazy. Because you cannot be, your life can't depend on a person that you don't trust. That's why also bipolarity or schizophrenic states and also dissociative states happen because you don't feel, you have to create an alternative reality to function in this mad world, basically. So this is what the danger is. So then you as a child, your psychological brain is wired in the way that you do need to trust your caretaker, right? You maybe also heard of Stockholm syndrome. Yeah. When we bond with our perpetrator, right? And like mostly it doesn't even, the perpetrator or the parent or the abuser, it doesn't have to be like even, you don't have to be like physically abused or like sexually abused. Even the emotional neglect of what was not there is highly, highly abusive, the emotional abuse. So, and so we are wired in a way that we go and trust the parent, the caretaker. We have to, otherwise we go nuts. We would go crazy. So we trust them, and this is how we stop trusting ourselves. And that takes us on a path that we abandon ourselves, basically. And this self-abandonment is the most painful.
So you talked, I guess, about incongruence, where, like, for example, your mother was suppressing anger and showing a happy face. I had a similar mother who showed a happy face to some people and this kind of martyred face to others. So it's almost like into the world, to the community, friends, she was this, hi, I'm fine, but then in private you could see this depressed and martyred, and there's this kind of strange thing going on. So incongruence is this thing, as you're kind of saying, I guess, where parents that are not clear mirrors, they're becoming dark mirrors almost, like ones we can't trust. We can't, as we're growing up, we need to see ourselves in others, our parents, I guess, and if we can't feel them, understand them, or if we sense they're lying to some extent, that's going to create a lot of problems, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot of confusion, and just because of the fact that we are existentially dependent on them, like we are one of the species on this planet that's like dependent for so many years on their caretakers. No other species is like that, and that really creates a lot of this bonding and identity crisis, basically, which we then today, we try to, we are clearing it today to free ourselves, to find our true essence. Because when the people around you are, so one thing is that you see that the world is a dangerous place, right? And then we see also, well, I can't really rely on anyone, right? And you can't understand, like, why are my parents arguing so much? Everything is so simple, right? It should be simple. Or why is my mom, portraying one face in her job and to the community and another face at home? How is this? It's so, like, basically we have this sensation as a child, and which is still brewing and vibrating in us today, of falsity. You know what I mean? That the world is false. And how do we function in a false world? Well, we become false, right? And we are in denial. And that's why, oh my God, the shattering of the illusion, of the filters that are happening today. Oh my God, because like sometimes even because with these dynamics, we also, of course, touch, the narcissism and the codependency dynamics in our families. And we all fall somewhere on this spectrum anyway, to different degrees. And it's really, so basically this self-abandonment is still going on today. And we don't really know ourselves. And then because always our hologram, we would say our lives, right, mirror our vibration. That's why also when I speak with clients, I always teach them this vibrational language, the technology of manifestation, how your beliefs and how your vibration and emotional energetics is being mirrored in your outside 3D world. And talking about narcissism, many of my clients, that was also my confusion, was that we are confused who is the narcissist and who is the codependent. Oh, and I can see that. And I had many cases when I told my clients, do you know that actually your mother was a narcissist? And oh my God, their world shifted 180 degree. And usually when I usually in my sessions, I break through the illusion, right? I tell them, this is it, this is how it is. And it makes such a shift that is so freeing, and it's huge. You can start shaking, you can start crying. Such a relief to know the truth, what is what, who is, to finally make sense. Because usually in this, in this family dynamics, that there was no authenticity, there was no intimacy. We didn't really communicate, we didn't see each other really. We were not seen, felt, heard. Neither were the parents, in them as a couple. So it's really confusing, like what is happening. That's why, to point things out and to see the truth is actually so freeing. It's like a bittersweet moment. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. It's like a bittersweet moment of revelation.
Yeah. I think when I first came to the spiritual path, one of the earliest things I came to was it was possible to create a sense of safety to a degree that I'd never experienced before in my family, or what I just, from the family, as you mentioned earlier, the world becomes an unsafe place. But I actually was able to create a place of safety within me. And also my family was a space where love was a very finite resource. And again, I was able to find, but actually it's not true. It's just the illusion of it. And I found that the universe was actually a place where all kinds of energies are in abundance, support, love, and care and attention, all these things. So our families are what we kind of grow into this illusion of. And one of the things I was thinking about was this idea of being conditioned by the fact we're conditioned into, I guess, either being one extreme, being the good son or daughter, being the pleasing or obedient, or the other extreme, being the rebellious, I'm off, I don't want to have anything to do with you type of thing. Do you want to say something about this kind of conditioning that goes on?
Well, in connecting this, what you just said with the safety mechanisms, the feeling of safety is basically, which is so, what I came across in my work was so amazing and interesting, that we basically, the mechanism of people pleasing is basically used and created to make us feel safe, to give us a false feeling of safety, because if we see that the people around us are unpredictable, and we never know how they're going to react or what is even going on, because we see something, they do something else, right, that's not predictable. So we, with people pleasing, we are actually trying to control their reactions, their behavior. We're trying to control our reality, our environment, but being a good girl or a good boy. And this is so, and we even do it today still. And this is the conditioning, right? Because maybe when we were small, the people-pleasing mechanism actually worked. We didn't really maybe get, the love that we wanted, the attention that we wanted, the appraisals that we wanted. But at least it was somehow safer, than to, be maybe a bad boy or a bad girl or rebellious. Because if you go into rebellion, then you actually become a scapegoat. And which is very interesting now that I'm talking about it. I was kind of both. I went through both stages. So I was a very good girl, excellent, perfect, a people pleaser. But then I could, as a starseed or indigo, I basically couldn't repress the rebellious side of me. So my rebellion came out in my teenage years, and I went into drugs, right? So, and I was doing drugs for a few years. I even went to the rehab when I was 17. So, and this was such a discrepancy of, oh my God, she's a top A student, a perfect girl. And then she fell into drugs just behind everybody's backs, basically. Nobody knew what was going on with me in my reality, and neither did I. I just basically had to die, because there's no sense. But there was like a divine intervention. So basically, I got into rehab there for a year and like basically started a new life. So these conditionings are basically our survival mechanisms and our defense mechanisms that kind of like to some extent served us in childhood, but today they're still running as programs. That's why today we don't feel free. Even when we, realize that we can even realize our dreams, we can go for what we want, we can achieve our goals, or, meet the partner of our dream, buy the house of our dream, but we still don't feel happy because we are so conditioned, we don't really know ourselves. Who am I? Who am I and who am I not? Because like you mentioned, the mirroring that we got from our caretakers when we were small was false. Was like crooked, is that the word? Crooked mirror?
Yeah, it's crooked.
Yeah. And so we got a crooked image, perception of ourselves, who we are. So this is, today we're embarking on this journey of really day by day, moment by moment, getting to know ourselves. Who am I and who am I not?
One of the things I've kind of found with family lines, see what you think, is that this idea that belonging is probably one of the strongest impulses we have, that even if our family is completely crazy, neurotic, dysfunctional, we'd rather be with them and sacrifice something in ourselves than being exiled or kicked out, because in the olden times, being kicked out of a tribe meant death.
Exactly.
So for example, in my family, it was a working class family, and there was very strong limits to success, for example, or happiness. We're struggling, we work hard. And I really had to to release that sense of attachment to this, or release any sense of even agreeing at some level to because I want to love you, I'll be with you, and I won't be more successful than you, and all this kind of thing. Is that common?
Yes, I mean this happens all the time. This happened with me basically. Now I just left Slovenia I put my house to rent for a year, and moved to Costa Rica, and I'm going to be basically traveling around the world for a year now, or I think even more, because I'm not going back as far as I feel now. But yeah, this is we have these unconscious agreements, where we are not allowed unconsciously, subconsciously, to break free or away from our family, because it's very interesting, because we kind of today we kind of functioned with my mother and father, just on the chit-chatty, surfacey basis. We have some kind of a relationship that is just like nice, surfacey, right? Because they still stuff so much emotions, and I'm not even going there with them, because they're not even ready to face them. And everything was going well until I rocked the boat. Until I said, "Mom, I'm moving to Costa Rica." Bam! Oh my God! A catastrophe! And they basically switched roles. My mother was always very supportive of my travels, because every month I would travel somewhere outside. And my father was like a little bit against it. And then when I said I'm moving to Costa Rica, like entirely, they switched roles. My mom went into a existential crisis, and my father was very supportive. So sometimes we don't even know what we're living. We don't even know what kind of subconscious contracts, and this belonging patterns and just some vows. We signed just energetically, just emotionally, just because we wanted the love, just because we wanted to belong. And even though on the outside consciously you can know, I don't want to belong to this family, right? In the subconscious there are many programs running that say, no, you cannot leave this house, you cannot leave this country, no, it's like forbidden for you. And it's only when you do it, or when you want to do it, when you start thinking of it, it comes up. Yeah.
And the more conscious we are of these things, the easier I guess they are to clear.
Yes, it's fascinating, and it's also like and the fascinating thing is that we can't just clear it on stock, in a sense. Okay, so here's the list, and I'm gonna just tick. This I did this. No, it's actually, we clear them. They pop up as we go through life, right? So the daily circumstances will make sure that we're gonna get triggered, and when the trigger comes up, this is the time to clear it. This is the time to feel it, to go into the emotion, to see what's like. It can be either, because we will do a process in the end of our talk. It can be either we can see the actual belief, or even if we don't know the belief, doesn't matter. Just feel the emotion, or go through it, and it's gonna shift. And that's why this is basically a 24/7 work. Spirituality. Yeah, it's like monks did it in monasteries in the past. Today we are just doing it in the Western world while we're cooking.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Tina, I know you've got a process now for helping people clear fear. We've talked about a lot of the problems, so it's really good that we can go into a clearing process. Yeah. So I'll just pass it over to you.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to do like a short exercise, a process, how to clear the fear, or get through the fear. And I'm inviting all of you that are listening to just choose like a daily situation from your daily life. Okay, so don't go now and don't go find like big triggers and big traumas just for this exercise. That's better to do on a session. For this exercise purposes, just find something that you're afraid of in your daily life. Let's take like a small fear. It could be like a phone call that you are afraid of or don't really want to do, or it can be that you are like appalled by your neighbor, or you're afraid of your neighbor, or maybe you're afraid to tell your mother no, like, don't call me anymore, right? So just take like one, let's say, smaller of the fears, just choose one, and maybe you felt it today, yesterday, last week, just choose one, and anyone will be fine. And just bring this image of the situation into your mind's eye and feel it. Let's feel the fear. And just invite the fear into your body. Beautiful. And just experience the fear. So just locate it where it is in your body. It could be in the chest, it could be in the throat, your head, legs or arms. And just feel it there. And let's just observe and experience this fear. And as we experience it, so we don't try to move it around, we don't talk to it, we don't love it even, we just experience it. And we can feel certain physical sensations, like tingling or shaking, or hot, cold, pressure, energy movement. Just let's experience that. And it can get uncomfortable, and we just sit in that uncomfortable feeling. We basically sit in fire like a phoenix. We just sit in it and we experience it. And as we feel the fear, this fear, we might get certain images or memories or thoughts or words. And we're just observing and experiencing all of it. And it's almost like we enter like a 5D or 9D movie. And if our body wants to shake, we just let it shake. And when sitting in the fear, in the fire, like a phoenix, we can get certain insights, or aha moments, or clarity, or even if we just feel the physical sensations and energy movements, that's fine, we just let it. And at some point we are going to naturally and organically feel a subtle shift in energy, like a calmness in our body, a relief. And maybe some of you might have had even an emotional release, like as in crying. That's also great, it's fine. And when the energy shifts, we just feel this calming feeling in our body. We feel more centered, more present in our bodies, more empowered. Because basically through this process we called our power back. Beautiful. And now, for the purpose of the exercise, you can try to bring in that trigger again, maybe a phone call that you were afraid of. Think of the phone call now, or saying no to your mother, to a person. How does this feel now? Is it a bit better? Is the trigger less strong? Maybe it even completely went away. And so then we can create from this new level of our vibration, because this is the new reality we're creating from. And from this new reality, from this new vibratory state, we can reach for new, different solutions that were not obvious for us prior to the process. Because if we are in fear and trying to do something or decide on something, we're gonna do that from the fear-based place, right? We're gonna attract the fear-based thoughts and fear-based emotions, and that's never a good thing to make decisions when we are like afraid or angry. So that's why it's very, very important to feel the emotion, go through it, sit in the fire, like very gently, very nicely, like holding your space while you're sitting in it. And then when it shifts, we have a different perspective. And from that new level of frequency, we are literally attracting different frequency of thoughts, like a new radio station. So that's why the downloads of ideas and inspirations and the solutions are going to be new, are going to be different. Because like we know, many also quantum physicists told us, right? And we can experience that the solutions are found not on the same frequency as the problem resides, right? So we need to first higher our frequency, higher our vibratory state, release the emotion, and then reach for what we want, basically.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful, wonderful. Tina, thank you so much. And
thank you.
There will be a link going out for people wanting to find your website with the podcast. So, Tina, thank you until next time we speak.
Yes, thank you so much, Steve. This was so much fun. Thank you again. And sending you much blessings and love from Costa Rica.